Why dogs lean against you. Your dog has been trying to tell you something every single day, and there is a good chance you have been missing it. It happens in the kitchen while you are making coffee. It happens on the couch, in the middle of a movie. It happens at the vet's office, in an elevator, on a crowded sidewalk. Your dog walks up, presses their body against your leg, and just stays there. Not sitting, not asking for food, just leaning. Most people smile, maybe scratch an ear, and move on without a second thought. It seems like such a small, ordinary gesture that we rarely stop to ask what it actually means. But researchers who study canine behavior have spent years trying to answer exactly that question. And what they have found suggests this quiet, physical act might be one of the most honest forms of communication your dog has. By the end of this, you will not just understand why your dog leans on you. You will start noticing when they do it, and that timing is going to tell you more about your relationship than you ever expected. Why this behavior matters. It's easy to dismiss leaning as background noise, something dogs just do, like breathing or wagging. But behaviorists who study body contact between dogs and humans argue that physical closeness is actually one of the clearest windows we have into a dog's internal state. Here's the misconception that trips up most owners. We tend to read leaning the way we'd read a hug from another person as a pure, simple expression of affection. And sometimes that's exactly what it is. But dogs don't have hands to hold, and they don't speak our language, so their bodies do a lot of the talking. A lean can mean affection. It can also mean anxiety, a request for reassurance, or even a subtle bid for control over a situation the dog finds uncertain. The problem is that most owners only have one interpretation loaded. "Oh, they love me," so they miss the moments when the behavior is actually a signal that something else is going on. Understanding the difference doesn't just satisfy curiosity. It changes how you respond in real time, which shapes how safe and understood your dog feels around you. But that's only part of the story. To really understand what's happening, we need to go back much further than your living room, back to the earliest days of dogs living alongside humans at all. The science dogs are one of the only species on Earth that evolved over tens of thousands of years specifically to read and respond to human behavior. That process is called domestication, and it did not just change how dogs look. It rewired how their brains handle social contact. Researchers studying the neurochemistry of human-dog interaction have found that physical touch between dogs and their owners triggers the release of oxytocin, often nicknamed the bonding hormone, in both species. This is not unique to dogs. Oxytocin plays the same role in strengthening bonds between human parents and infants. What is remarkable is that dogs appear to have hijacked, or at least tapped into, this ancient bonding system that originally evolved for parent-offspring attachment, redirecting it toward humans entirely outside their species. There's also a physical explanation working alongside the emotional one. Dogs are pack-oriented animals, descended from ancestors that relied on close physical contact for warmth, safety, and social cohesion. Wolves in a den pile on top of each other. Littermates sleep in a tangle of limbs. That instinct for contact doesn't disappear just because a dog grows up in a house with a couch and a bed. It gets redirected toward you. And then there's pressure itself. Some behaviorists have drawn comparisons between a dog leaning into a person and the effect of deep pressure therapy, a technique used in human occupational therapy, for example, weighted blankets, which appears to have a calming effect on the nervous system. The evidence connecting this specifically to dogs leaning on people is more anecdotal than experimental, so it's worth treating as a plausible explanation rather than a settled fact. Still, many trainers and veterinary behaviorists report anecdotally that dogs seek out contact pressure during moments of stress, which lines up with what many owners already notice. Researchers discovered something even more interesting when they started looking at where dogs choose to make contact. It's rarely random. Dogs tend to lean against the person they perceive as their strongest safety anchor. And in multi-person households, that is not always the person who feeds them. What your dog is really communicating. To understand a lean, you have to stop thinking of it as one behavior and start thinking of it as a sentence that changes meaning depending on context. The same physical action can carry completely different messages. A relaxed, lean, soft body, slow breathing, maybe a sigh, eyes half closed, is usually a dog settling into comfort. This is contentment. This is a dog saying, in the only language available to them, "I feel safe enough here to stop being alert." A tense lean is a different sentence entirely. If your dog presses into you during a thunderstorm, at the vet, near a loud construction site, or when a stranger approaches, their body will usually feel stiffer, muscles more rigid, weight shifted forward rather than settled. This isn't relaxation. It's a dog using your body as a physical anchor point during a moment they don't feel equipped to handle alone. Then there's the lean that functions almost like a request. Some dogs press into their owner's leg right before a walk, right when a visitor arrives, or right as another dog approaches on the sidewalk. In these moments, the behavior often works less like affection and more like a check-in, a physical way of asking, "Are we okay? What's happening right now?" This is the part most owners never learn to read. The emotional temperature of the lean matters more than the lean itself. A dog who leans heavily with a loose, wiggly body is communicating something entirely different from a dog who leans with a tucked tail and darting eyes. Same behavior, opposite meaning. We'll come back to how you can start recognizing that difference in your own dog in just a moment. First, it's worth clearing up a few ideas about this behavior that sound convincing but don't actually hold up. Common myths. Myth: dogs lean to show dominance. This idea comes from outdated dominance theory, a framework largely built on flawed research involving captive, unrelated wolves forced into artificial social groups, not how wild wolf packs or domestic dogs actually organize themselves. Modern behavioral science has moved away from dominance-based explanations for most everyday dog behaviors. Leaning instead argues that closeness signals security seeking, not a bid for control. A dog trying to assert dominance doesn't typically do it by making itself smaller and pressing into your legs. Myth: leaning means your dog is clingy or poorly trained. This one comes from a very human lens, the assumption that independence equals good behavior and closeness equals a problem. But social proximity seeking is a completely normal part of canine psychology, not a training failure. In fact, dogs that show healthy attachment behaviors toward their owners often test as more securely bonded, not less. Myth: every lean is the same and always means "I love you." As covered above, this is the biggest misread of all. It's a comforting interpretation, but it flattens a nuanced signal into a single meaning, which causes owners to miss the moments their dog is actually asking for help, not affection. Where the science is genuinely still developing is why certain dogs lean far more than others. Breed, early socialization, individual temperament, and even a dog's specific attachment history with their owner all appear to play a role, but researchers have not fully mapped out how much each factor contributes. If your dog is a champion leaner and your neighbor's dog never does it, that's not necessarily a reflection of love or bond strength. It may simply be a difference in personality. What you should do. The goal here isn't to fix leaning. For the vast majority of dogs, it's not a problem at all. The goal is to get better at reading it so you can respond to what your dog actually needs in that moment. Start by watching the body, not just the behavior. When your dog leans, glance at three things: their breathing, their muscle tension, and their tail. A soft, loose body with slow breathing is a dog who's comfortable. You can simply enjoy the moment. A stiff body, shallow or fast breathing, or a low or tucked tail is a dog who may be looking for reassurance. And that's worth a calmer, quieter response rather than excited petting or a big reaction. Pay attention to timing. Does the leaning spike during thunderstorms, fireworks, vet visits, or when unfamiliar people or dogs are nearby? If a clear pattern emerges, that's valuable information. It tells you your dog has identified you as their safety base during specific triggers, and you can plan ahead. Sitting calmly near your dog before a known stressor, rather than after they're already overwhelmed, tends to be more effective than trying to soothe a dog who has already tipped into distress. Avoid the instinct to immediately push a leaning dog away, even gently, if they're seeking contact during a stressful moment. This doesn't mean you need to become a human-weighted blanket on command, but abruptly withdrawing contact when a dog is anxious can undermine their trust that you're a reliable source of comfort. At the same time, don't overinterpret every lean as a crisis. If your dog is leaning during a lazy Sunday afternoon with a floppy, relaxed body, they're not secretly stressed, they're just enjoying being near you. Reading context matters far more than reading the behavior in isolation. Finally, if you notice your dog's leaning is accompanied by other signs of chronic stress, panting when it's not hot, pacing, loss of appetite, or excessive clinginess that's new or worsening, that combination is worth discussing with a veterinarian or a certified veterinary behaviorist, since it could point to an underlying anxiety issue rather than typical bonding behavior. Surprising facts and real-life examples. Here's something that surprises most owners. Leaning appears to be far less common in wolves interacting with each other than it is in dogs interacting with humans. While wolves absolutely use physical contact within their family units, the specific behavior of deliberately leaning body weight into a human companion looks like something dogs developed, or at least dramatically amplified, through thousands of years of living alongside us. In other words, this might be a behavior that essentially evolved for humans, not one dog simply carried over unchanged from their wild ancestors. There's also a fascinating asymmetry worth noticing in multi-dog or multi-person households. Many owners report that their dog doesn't lean on every family member equally and often gravitates toward whoever the dog associates most strongly with calm, predictable interactions, rather than simply whoever provides food. This lines up with broader research on attachment in dogs, which has found that dogs form distinguishable attachment relationships with different people in a household, not unlike the way children can have a primary attachment figure among multiple caregivers. Compare this to cats for a moment, since the contrast is telling. Cats do rub against their owners, but that behavior is largely driven by scent marking through glands in their face and body, a territorial and identification behavior. A dog's lean isn't primarily about scent at all. It's about touch, weight, and proximity itself. Two animals, two completely different evolutionary strategies, both landing on physical closeness, but for very different underlying reasons. And here's a detail that tends to stick with people. Some service dogs are deliberately trained to lean, a technique sometimes called deep pressure therapy in a working context, specifically to help handlers manage panic attacks or sensory overload. Trainers didn't invent this behavior from scratch. They took something dogs already do instinctively and shaped it into a formal skill, because the calming effect of a dog's weight against a person's body was already well documented in service dog communities long before it became a training protocol. Final takeaway. What looks like a small, unremarkable habit, a dog quietly pressing against your leg while you wash dishes, is actually a compressed piece of evolutionary history, neurochemistry, and real-time emotional communication, all happening in a single gesture. Your dog isn't randomly choosing to lean. They're using one of the only tools they have to tell you how they're feeling and who they trust enough to feel it around. Sometimes that's pure, uncomplicated comfort. Sometimes it's a quiet request for reassurance during a moment that feels bigger than they can handle alone. The more we understand our dogs, the less mysterious their behavior becomes, and the stronger the bond we build with them.